You probably think this world is a dream come true, but you're wrong.
Hi babes, and welcome back to my channel. So, in my last video, we talked about terrifying childhood media. So for this video, I thought it'd be fun to talk about a show that was all about scaring kids. So on top of having that banger intro, Goosebumps' main accolade was the fact that it was horror aimed directly at children. And as someone who had every Goosebumps book as a kid, I loved this show. The creators did such an amazing job adapting this show to the point where whenever I watched it, the episodes would almost exactly resemble what I'd see in my head when I read the books. And I could easily sit here and go on an hour-long nostalgia-driven rant about how much I loved Goosebumps, but I thought it'd be a lot more fun to actually go back and revisit the show. But I am definitely not the I watched every episode of Goosebumps type of YouTuber. So what I decided to do was take all 74 episodes, put them in a random number generator, and take 3 different numbers from it. So with all that being said, get comfy, grab a snack, and let's talk about Goosebumps. Okay, so this episode is actually a sequel episode to Say Cheese and Die, and honestly, I thought that was going to make this episode kind of hard to talk about, but it does a really good job at giving you all of the necessary context that you would need from part 1. Don't get me wrong, it is not handled naturally at all, but it gets the job done. So the episode opens with this ghoul-like man trying to take a picture of a sleeping kid. The kid wakes up and rightfully so freaks out, but then it's revealed it was just a dream.
Are you okay?
I'm fine. I'm fine, Mom. Thanks.
Do you want me to leave the lights on?
No way! I'm fine.
Yeah, Mom, I know I was just screaming in here like there was a murderer in my room, but buzz off, you bitch. So it turns out that Greg is supposed to be writing a report about an experience that changed his life. So he writes about his experiences from the first episode. The teacher tells him that if he wants an A, he needs to prove that the wild shit from his story actually happened. And the teacher says the way to do this is by bringing in the evil camera that caused all of the events from his story. He goes to the building where he'd previously left the camera, but it's been destroyed, only leaving the basement intact.
I wonder if they took the basement.
You wonder if they took the basement. So he goes down into the basement, finds the camera, when not John Leguizamo shows up and tries to take it. And I gotta say, there are some stellar performances in this episode, but this guy just...
Give that to me.
I need it!
Give it to me now.
So the guard chases down Greg, but before he can catch him, Greg takes his picture. The guard falls down the stairs, and we zoom in on a Polaroid, showing us that the camera had actually predicted this. Greg goes home and locks the camera up in his room.
Nice and safe.
Is it? The next day, Greg is taking his camera to school for his report when he runs into his friend that had disappeared in episode 1. She tells him to put it back, but he says he needs it for his report. They start to fight, but Greg accidentally snaps her picture. She gets upset, takes the camera, and snaps Greg's picture as well. The girl's picture comes out as a negative, and Greg's comes out as him having gained significant weight.
You think this is a big joke? Big? Yes, it is a big joke.
Greg wakes up the next day and finds out that the vision from the picture has actually come true, and he is now moderately husky.
Hello?
It's Sherry.
Sherry? I woke up and I was huge.
Why are they warping his face like that? I need to show you this scene in its entirety.
Nothing fits me anymore. What am I gonna wear? This is crazy. Oh, forget it.
I have no words. Let's just move on. So Greg shows up to school the next day, and everyone wonders why he has cotton balls in his mouth. He explains to the class that it was the camera that actually made him fat. Well, you know what they say, the camera does add 10 pounds. Siri, how do you delete a YouTube channel? The teacher yells at Greg to sit down so this girl can finish her presentation when this happens.
Patient to do well on the balance beam.
Do you get it? Because fat people are funny. We then cut to Greg at home where he is rapidly gaining more and more weight. His friend shows up and we see that she is actually rapidly losing more and more weight, almost as if she is wasting away.
I don't know. Uh-oh, I'm getting that feeling. Oh.
They start to panic, but then they get the idea that if they can reverse the images from positive to negative and vice versa, that it might reverse the effects they're experiencing. They take the pictures to Greg's brother, who works at a camera shop, and they ask if he can help. He starts to work on the photos, but the effects on Greg and his friends start to worsen.
Oh, I can feel it. I'm gonna explode.
Me after eating Taco Bell. Greg's friend starts to horrifyingly fade away, but luckily his brother fixes the pictures in time and the effects wear off. All is well, and Greg ends up giving his class report about these experiences, but his teacher calls him a big dum-dum and ends up taking a picture of himself to prove that it's all baloney. He laughs it off, but then realizes his hair is slowly falling out. We see the Polaroid he took where he goes completely bald, and the class all laughs it off. Well, I guess you can call this a hairy situation. So, is this episode good? It's okay. The acting in this show has never been known for being amazing or anything, but something about this episode was just not as charming as I remember Goosebumps being. This feels like one of those stories that R.L. Stine was told he needed to do a sequel for, so he just crunched it out in a day and moved on. It's not scary, it's not funny, and honestly, with the exception of one scene, it's kinda boring. So I give this episode a very light 2.5 cotton ball cheeks out of 10. So our next episode opens with a family unpacking boxes at their new home when a neighborhood friend approaches. They start moving things inside when their dog starts to run around the house.
Oh, Killer!
I'll get him, Mom.
I feel like only a white family could have a dog named Killer, you know? Like I could have the sweetest, tiniest little corgi, but name him Killer, and white ladies in the neighborhood will be like, "Excuse me, officer, this dog just tried to stab me and sell me cocaine." But a white family will literally have like a fucking wolf with a gun, and people will be like, "Oh my god, isn't he just the sweetest thing?" What the fuck is this video about again? So our main character, Katrina, finds her dog sniffing and whining at the cupboard underneath the kitchen sink. She goes to investigate and finds a crusty, gross, sponge-like creature. She freaks out when she thinks it moves, but then realizes it's just an old sponge. Later on, however, she's brushing her teeth and we see that the creature is actually alive and nearby. She accidentally drops a glass and her brother steps on a piece of it.
What? Daniel, what happened?
I'm not the only one who heard that, right? Katrina explains to her mom that she dropped the glass because she saw the evil sponge creature. But obviously, being a parent in a Goosebumps episode, she doesn't believe her. We then cut to the next day where Katrina's brother's absolutely dunking on her.
Look out! Paper towel with eyes.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
The family notices that Killer is missing, and Katrina goes out to look for him. She's riding around on her bike when her brakes go out and she takes a tumble. So Katrina is telling her brother and his friend about how she thinks everything that's been happening is somehow linked to this sponge. Suddenly, it appears out of nowhere, and honestly, they all handle it pretty well.
This is better than the X-Files.
They bury the sponge in the backyard, but this only makes things worse. So they decide to dig it up and take it to their teacher at school. They leave it there overnight, but after doing some research, they find out that the creature is actually something called a gruel, a living creature that is looked at as a bad luck charm. And if the owner disposes of the gruel, they die as well. So they run over to the school to get it back. The kids are searching throughout the school, but they quickly hide when the night janitor comes into the room they're in. The power goes out and the janitor knocks himself out trying to turn it back on. So the kids continue looking for the gruel when Katrina decides to hop up on a shelf that contains acid. She gets startled when she sees the sponge at the top of the shelf, knocking it over, causing the acid to spill. The sponge rapidly starts to grow until it hears some music and then it starts to shrink back down. The kids realize that hearing the music must have given the sponge some good vibes, and they decide to turn it up. However, after doing this, the radio breaks and the sponge begins to grow again. They pull a reverse It Chapter 2 and compliment the sponge until it shrinks down completely.
Did I ever tell you what a wonderful sponge you are?
Great, keep going.
So handsome, so terrific.
Of course. Brilliant. Kill it with kindness.
We cut to Katrina at home, showing us that because she couldn't dispose of the gruel, she now keeps it in a tank as a pet. She keeps it in a tank next to her bed, listening to chill tunes and having chill moods. All ends well, and Killer even returns. Killer? I don't even know her that well. I don't think I did that joke right. She goes to greet him, she gives him pets, she sees that Killer brought her something. It's another gruel, spooky, scary, dun 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 dun. This one, although not my favorite, was definitely better than the first one. Something about it just felt a little more Goosebumps to me. Maybe it has something to do with the last episode being a sequel and me not having all the context. But so far, I enjoy this one more story-wise. Alien Sponge. Can't go wrong with that. Anyway, with that being said, let's get into our final episode. So, funny thing about this episode is I actually don't remember it all that well. However, what I do remember is the cover of the book. Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns has always been one of my favorite cover arts. There's something so cool yet still so unsettling about it. This shit just screams Halloween. So let's see if this episode can live up to the hype, or if we prove that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. The episode opens up with our protagonists, Drew and Walker, discussing if they should go trick-or-treating this Halloween. They run into some old friends, Shane and Shauna, who had recently moved away.
This is Walker, by the way.
Hey, I'm Walker.
Yeah, she just said that.
I know, she just said that.
Hey, I just said that.
I know, she just said that.
The fuck does this bitch think she is? I think I'm losing my mind. So, these kids are definitely ghosts, right? They continue to talk with Shane and Shauna when they are suddenly attacked. Turns out it's just some neighborhood bullies pulling a prank on them, something that they are infamous for.
Those two are still torturing you, huh, Drew?
It's getting worse. Last year, they snuck into my Halloween party and pretended they were burglars.
You know, there used to be 3 of them. Until... So Drew decides she wants to get back at the bullies. So Shane and Shauna tell Drew all she needs to do is invite the bullies trick-or-treating and they'll handle the rest. They go out for their Halloween night when this happens.
My goodness, what wonderful costumes. Please come in. My husband would love to see your costumes. Don't be afraid. My husband's been sick and he can't get up, but he'd be so happy to see your costumes. Oh, yes. That's it. Go right up the stairs. That's it. Go right up the stairs.
Yep. Totally nothing suspicious going on here. Let's just get in there. So it turns out that this whole creepy sequence is actually just Drew having a bad dream. She starts getting ready to leave for actual trick-or-treating when her mom reveals that she's worried due to the disappearance of 4 children a few days ago. The dad tells her to stop being such a chalk block and to let Drew have her fun. You see, what I said there was chalk block. Because on Halloween, you go out and you get candy. So instead of saying, you know, you're a cock block, I said chalk block, like chocolate block. Let me just see here how to erase your internet existence. They meet up with the bullies and start going trick-or-treating, but they start to get worried when they notice Shane and Shauna haven't arrived. They get ambushed by some people wearing jack-o'-lantern heads, but the bullies don't fall for it. However, Drew begins to become worried when she's suspicious that this isn't Shane and Shauna. Then the Pumpkinheads tell the kids to follow them to a better place. Hell. Just kidding, it's a Halloween paradise, where the kids get buckets of candy, full-size candy bars, and it's just the fucking rich neighborhood. It's just the wealthy neighborhood. You cannot trick me, Pumpkin Man. I know your tricks. This is not a Halloween magic world. This is just a wealthy gated community. I did this every year. The kids have had enough trick-or-treating for the night, and they decide to try and leave, but the Pumpkinheads tell them that they must stay forever.
Forever. Forever. Forever.
The kids run away, but they're caught by the pumpkins. The pumpkins then remove their heads, trying to attach them to the bullies to make them, quote-unquote, one of them. However, the bullies have just enough time to slip away and escape. But plot twist, it turns out the pumpkins, in fact, were Shane and Shauna the entire time. So, I was wrong. The kids aren't ghosts. They're fucking aliens. Yep, Shane and Shauna are aliens, and apparently Drew knew the entire time. She explains to Walker that before she moved away, that she was best friends with these two, and that she knew they were aliens before they left. They all have a good laugh about finally getting their revenge and scaring the bullies, and everyone ends their Halloween happy and with a bag full of candy. Except then Shane and Shauna reveal that they super killed and ate those 4 missing people from earlier in the story, and that soon they will return to Earth to feed again. Great, sick, love it. Good time, fun time, not scared at all. So I think out of all 3 of the episodes I watched for this video, this one was definitely my favorite. I mean, it literally takes place on Halloween night. And it just gives me that fun, spooky Goosebumps vibe that I was looking for. Especially the ending. My favorite Goosebumps endings were always the ones that ended with a scary twist. However, I will say, as fun as this episode was, somehow, I still don't think it compares to just the cover art of the book alone. I know it might seem strange to compare an entire episode of a television show to the feeling I got looking at the cover art of a book, but something about this cover is just so iconic, and it just really gives me that spooky Goosebumps nostalgia. But that being said, I had a really fun time revisiting this show. Yes, it's corny. Yes, it's campy. It's silly. The acting is abysmal, but there's something so fun and charming about Goosebumps. Goosebumps, both the books and the show, were definitely a big gateway into my love for the horror genre, to the point where when you think about it, without discovering Goosebumps, I may not have this channel today. I love horror. It's one of my favorite things in the world. I love spooky stuff. But Goosebumps really was my first taste of that, and it really left me craving more and helped me dive into the genre. So coming back to revisit this show was a really fun look into where I was when I first discovered horror. So, do I recommend Goosebumps? Yeah, obviously. I think this is the perfect show to come back and revisit around Halloween time. I think this is definitely something you can put on and riff with your friends. It is a blast to watch. And yeah, that was Goosebumps. Thank y'all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. It was a ton of fun looking back on this show. Let me know in the comments what was your favorite episode of Goosebumps, or even your favorite book/cover art. I think it would be fun to really look at everyone's favorite episodes and things like that. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe and all that stuff. And keep an eye out for new videos, because I've got new videos coming. I'm doing them. I'm writing and making stuff. So, yeah, I guess with that being said, there's nothing left to sign off with but a viewer beware. You're in for a scare. That doesn't really make sense that you usually start with that, right? I don't... Attack of the Jantalankers. Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns, cunt.